Senior Research Fellow at Africa-Asia Dialogues, Thembisa Fakude, joins us now for a better understanding of what this means. Thembisa, is always great to have you with us. What does this application to the ICJ by SA entail? They have made quite a number of submissions asking the court to protect against further severe as well as irreparable harm to the rights of the Palestinian people. Take us through some of those as well.
It puts Israel on a back foot. South Africa is one of the very few countries that have...
Thembisa, we are currently struggling with your connection there. We are going to try and redial you. That was, of course, a Senior Research Fellow at Africa-Asia Dialogues, Mr. Thembisa Fakude, just to give us more analysis on South Africa having applied to the ICJ in terms of the resolution out in the Middle East. All right, Thembisa, hopefully you can hear me this time. I was saying, as always, great to have you with us. What does the application to the ICJ by South Africa actually entail? I mean, we know they've made quite a number of submissions asking the court to protect against further severe and irreparable harm to the rights of the Palestinian people. Take us through some of those submissions as well.
Well, I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, perfectly. Thank you, Thembisa.
What is happening is that Israel is now on a back foot. South Africa is the first country to have taken this step, which is very important. Yesterday, when the announcement was made, there was celebrations in many parts of the world that South Africa is, taking a much more serious position that would have expected to have been taken at least by the countries in the Middle East, including the Saudi Arabia, UAE, taking others, but it took South Africa to do this. And it also will provide the basis henceforth of a, talking points in this regard. It gives those that will be commenting on this one an opportunity to mention the word genocide without, without being not sure whether to use the word or not. Because South Africa has launched this application, it then becomes easy for all analysts, journalists, whenever they speak about Israel, to mention and include that word, that this is a country that's currently facing the charges of genocide at the ICJ. So it's going to be really serious for Israel moving forward in terms of its international relations and public relations. This is as bad as it may come.
Thembisa, is the ICJ more endowed in power over the ICC, which we know that an application was made to, and they said that they will investigate, and since no feedback? What is the difference between the two?
Well, ICC is already investigating crimes against humanity and war crimes against Israel, so that goes on. And ICC is more often concentrating more on individuals. ICJ is mainly a platform, an arena where countries or states are taken to in terms of trying to mend fences, trying to encourage them to discuss issues and achieve some semblance of peace and negotiation towards peaceful resolution. So ICJ is more on concentrating on states rather than individual, whereas ICC tend to concentrate more on individuals. Currently, the investigation that the ICC is involved with involves Hamas and Israel, and it has charged both for it's investigating both for the violations of crimes against humanity.
And please elaborate further on the specific act that South Africa submitted this application, and then please comment on the timing of this application, Thembisa.
Well, the number of countries that have since been being investigated at the moment. One is Myanmar and Ukraine, of course, who have taken Russia to the ICJ. So South Africa falls now or becomes part of that group of countries. And if you've been following those two stories, the two countries, that is Myanmar and Israel, Russia, they both have been accused of committing crimes of genocide. Now, South Africa becomes the third that has accused a country, which is Israel in this regard, of committing genocide. So that in itself places Israel in a much, as I've said earlier on, in a much more complicated position in terms of its international relations And whether it likes it or not, this will certainly have an impact moving forward in terms of how it conducts itself. It will be much more circumspect in terms of its engagement in Gaza moving forward, because there is this case that has been opened, and now the investigations will be vigilant in terms of whether Israel continues to violate the basic rights of Palestinians, and are those violations akin to genocide or not. So it's a much more serious one, and I think it's going to be in real time and very active. And I think it puts Israel, well, Israel has not been really, didn't really care for the past 3 months, at least now, what it has been doing in Gaza. One wonders whether it will, this time around, be much more circumspect, given that South Africa is now going to be looking much more closer, including the SCJ, in terms of what it does moving forward.
And Thembisa, besides the other countries that you've mentioned, do you foresee other countries also joining in applications and submissions to the ICJ?
Well, we've waited for a very long time and we haven't seen any movement. And as I've said, we would have expected that at least the Arab countries, the GCC countries and the members of the Arab League would have at least acted in this regard, and they haven't, for one reason or other. And it took South Africa, because of experience, of course, with apartheid, that we've taken this position.
All right. And what evidence then do you think South Africa is in position with to support all the allegations in their submissions, Thembisa?
I think the evidence that all of us are seeing, we are seeing the genocide in front of our eyes in real time unfolding. Every day you have hundreds of kids, women and men who are killed by the Israeli bombs in Gaza. But we don't see, after October the 7th, Israel is continually being killed by the Hamas or Islamic Jihad. What we see at the moment is numbers are staggering. We have at least now heading towards 20,000 Palestinians, most of whom are civilians. We don't know the number of Hamas and Islamic Jihad has been killed. So there's the evidence in front of our eyes and on a daily basis unfolding, the wanton destruction of infrastructure, and the videos that are, casually sent by the Israeli Defense Force members who are currently destroying Gaza, who are posting on TikTok, posting on all other social media platforms, basically bragging on what they're continually doing in Gaza. So there is evidence. That evidence is right in front of our eyes. Absolutely.
And I mean, Thembisa, we know that Israeli Foreign Ministry spokesperson wrote on X that, of course, Israel rejects with disgust the blood libel spread by South Africa and its application, and called it basically baseless. So what then if the court actually agrees that this is genocide? What happens?
Well, we don't know what's going to happen, but if this is genocide, then Israel is going to be known as a country that's committed genocide against the Palestinians. Of course, that's very, very far-fetched, because ICJ has not been able to succeed in persecuting such crimes. So one hopes, of course, that this time around things will move much more swiftly, given that there is evidence that is brought on a daily basis by journalists, researchers, and others on what's happening at the moment in Gaza. So hopefully this current evidence is, in front of all of us will work towards convincing those that are investigating this crime that there is actually a crime of genocide. But even when that happens, we are likely to have Israel marched to The Hague, or at least Benjamin Netanyahu marched to The Hague. It will take a much, much more dedicated pressure from the international community, but importantly to take the will of the United States to do what is expected by all of us. But the United States, unfortunately, at the moment is totally and squarely on the side of Benjamin Netanyahu. They're protecting him. They continue supplying him with arms to continue killing the Palestinians. So to answer your question, nothing much will happen. But again, history might just prove us otherwise. I think if Israel does get indicted in this regard, we might just see something different from what we're used to from the ICJ moving forward.
Thank you so much for your contributions there. As always, Senior Research Fellow at Africa-Asia Dialogues, Mr. Thembisa Fakude.